You walk up to your sink, turn a handle, and clean water pours out, instantly, as much as you want. You don't check if it's safe. You don't even look at it. You just stick your cup under it, drink, and walk away. That casual little moment is one of the most incredible things humans have ever pulled off. That water you just gulped without a second thought traveled through miles of pipes, survived a gauntlet of machines and chemistry, and was cleaned to a level that would have seemed like actual magic to almost everyone who ever lived. And it's a big reason you're alive to ignore it. Because here's the thing nobody thinks about. For almost all of human history, water was one of the most dangerous things you could put in your body. Let's go back, before we trace the journey, and be honest about what tap water actually replaced. For thousands of years, the water people drank was a lottery. It looked fine. It might even taste fine, but it was often swimming with invisible things that could kill you. Diseases like cholera and dysentery spread through dirty water and wiped out staggering numbers of people. Entire cities would get hit. Children were especially likely to die, and nobody even understood why, because the killers were too small to see. For most of history, people genuinely believed disease floated in on bad smells or bad air. They had no idea the real enemy was in the water itself, in the clear, innocent-looking water they trusted with their lives. Cities would dump their waste into the same rivers they drank from, and then wonder why everyone kept getting sick. It took humanity an embarrassingly long time to connect those two dots. And once we finally did, cleaning the water became one of the most important missions in the history of public health. So when you turn that handle and clean, safe water just appears, you're not using a convenience. You're using one of the deadliest problems in human history, solved and piped directly into your kitchen. Clean water on demand has saved more lives than almost any medicine ever invented. And you use it to rinse a plate. Okay, let's follow your water backwards, from your cup all the way to where it came from, and find out what it actually took to get here. Start at the tap. The water comes out of your faucet, but that faucet is just the very last inch of a long journey. Behind your wall, your home is threaded with pipes, and those pipes connect to a bigger pipe that runs under your street. That street pipe connects to an even bigger one, and that connects to a giant network of underground pipes running beneath your entire town or city. It's a hidden skeleton of water buried under everything, and you walk over it every single day without knowing. Now follow those pipes back far enough, and they all lead to one place. The place that is the real hero of this entire story, the water treatment plant. This is where the magic actually happens, and I want you to really picture what arrives here, because it's important. The water that shows up at a treatment plant is not clean, at all. It's pulled from a river, a lake, or a big reservoir, and it arrives dirty. Cloudy, full of mud, leaves, tiny bits of everything, and loaded with microscopic organisms you absolutely do not want in your body. If you drank it straight, you'd probably get sick. The treatment plant's entire job is to take that questionable, murky water and turn it into something you can safely pour down your throat. And it does it in a series of clever steps. Step 1 is the simplest, screening. Before anything else, the incoming water is passed through screens and grates that catch all the big stuff. Sticks, leaves, trash, and yes, sometimes fish. It's the bouncer at the door, keeping the obvious junk out before the real work begins. Step 2 is where it gets genuinely clever. The water is still full of tiny particles, way too small and too light to ever sink or be filtered out on their own. They just float there, making the water cloudy. So the plant adds special chemicals that do something sneaky. These chemicals make all those tiny scattered particles suddenly stick to each other. The particles start clumping together, grabbing more and more bits, forming bigger and bigger clumps. These clumps have a name. They're called flock. You've basically tricked all the invisible dirt into holding hands and forming groups big enough to deal with. Step 3. Now that the dirt has clumped into heavy flock, you just let gravity do the work. The water flows into huge, calm tanks and simply sits there. Slowly, all those clumps, now heavy enough to sink, drift down and settle on the bottom as a layer of sludge. The water above gets noticeably clearer. This step is called sedimentation, and it's satisfyingly low-tech. After all the chemistry, sometimes the trick is just wait and let the junk fall. But the water still isn't clean enough. It's clearer, but there are still finer particles floating in it. So step 4, the water passes down through filters, usually thick beds of sand and gravel. As the water trickles through, the sand traps the smaller particles that survived the earlier steps. Think of it like the water squeezing through a dense maze where all the leftover dirt gets stuck along the way, and only the water makes it through to the bottom. What comes out is genuinely clear now, and it's such a good trick that it's basically a sped-up copy of what the Earth already does naturally, when rain slowly soaks down through layers of soil and rock and comes out clean on the other side. The plant just does in hours what nature takes years to do. But, and this is the most important but in the whole process, clear is not the same as safe. The water might look perfectly clean and still be full of invisible bacteria and viruses. The clumping and the filtering got rid of the dirt you can see, but not necessarily the microscopic killers that caused all those historical plagues. Clear water can still make you very, very sick. Which brings us to step 5, the one that quietly changed human history: disinfection. The plant adds a carefully measured amount of a disinfectant, most commonly chlorine, into the water. This chemical hunts down and destroys the bacteria, viruses, and parasites still lurking in there. This single step, killing the invisible things you can't see, is arguably the most important part of the whole plant. It's the difference between water that looks clean and water that actually won't hurt you. And a small amount of that disinfectant is deliberately left in the water as it travels onward, like a security guard that rides along in the pipes, keeping it protected the entire way to your house. Some plants add a few finishing touches. They might tweak the water's acidity so it doesn't slowly corrode the pipes on its journey. Many add a tiny amount of fluoride, which helps protect people's teeth. And through all of this, constantly, the water is being tested. Samples are pulled and checked over and over, around the clock, because the one thing you can never do is let bad water slip through. There are people whose entire job is to make sure the water you'll never think about is safe. Now the water is finally clean, safe, and ready. But it's sitting at a treatment plant, and you are somewhere else entirely, maybe on the 3rd floor of a building. How does it get all the way to you and come out with enough force to actually be useful? That's its own quiet piece of genius. The secret is pressure, and the system keeps that pressure up around the clock. Sometimes it's done with powerful pumps constantly pushing the water through the network. And very often it's done with something you've definitely seen and never questioned: water towers. Those big tanks up on tall legs, they're not decoration. By storing a huge amount of water up high, gravity pulls down on all of it, and that weight pushes water through the entire city's pipes with steady pressure. It's a giant, simple, always-ready battery made of water and height. It's the reason that when you open your tap at 3 in the morning, water is instantly there, with force, without anyone flipping a switch for you. And think about the scale of that promise for a second. It doesn't matter if you're the first person in the city to wake up, or the 10,000th. It doesn't matter if it's a holiday, or a storm, or the middle of the night. The pressure is always up. The water is always there. That means the system has to hold enough clean water, at the ready, to serve an entire population at any random moment, and it can never run dry, not even for an hour, or people notice immediately. This whole invisible machine is built around a single unspoken rule: the water simply must never stop. So let's rewind one more step, past the treatment plant, to where the water was before any of this began. Before the plant, it sat in a source: a reservoir, a lake, a river, or deep underground in the rock. And that water got there through the water cycle, the endless loop of the planet. Water evaporates from oceans and lakes, forms clouds, falls as rain and snow, flows into rivers and soaks into the ground, and eventually gets collected and sent to be cleaned for you. And here's a strange, almost eerie thought to sit with. That water is old, really old. The water cycle has been running for billions of years, using the same water over and over. The water in your glass has been rained down, evaporated, and rained again countless times. It has been in oceans, in clouds, in rivers, and yes, in other creatures. The water you're drinking right now was, at some point, very likely drunk by a dinosaur. You are sipping recycled dinosaur water that a treatment plant just made safe again. And it's totally fine, because the cycle and the plant cleaned it. So let's add it all up. What did it actually take for that one careless glass of water to reach your hand? Water lifted into the sky by the sun, dropped as rain, collected in a reservoir, pulled into a treatment plant filthy and dangerous, screened to remove the big junk, dosed with chemicals to trick invisible dirt into clumping together, left to settle so the clumps sink, filtered through beds of sand to catch the rest, disinfected to kill the microscopic things that used to kill people by the millions, balanced, tested constantly, and then pushed, by pumps and by the sheer weight of towers of water held up high, through miles and miles of hidden underground pipes, all the way to the exact spot where you were standing, so it would be waiting, clean and pressurized, the instant you turned a handle. An enormous, tireless, mostly invisible system, running 24 hours a day, every day, forever, quietly performing one of the greatest life-saving feats in human history. And here's the part that should really get you. Right now, today, billions of people on this planet still do not have this. For a huge chunk of the world, safe water on demand is not normal. It's a luxury. People walk for hours to collect water that still isn't as clean as what's sitting in your toilet tank. And you? You let the tap run while you look for your toothbrush. You pour half a glass down the drain because it went a little warm. You flush a bowl of this miracle without a single thought. The single most important, most fought for, most life-saving substance in human history, delivered flawlessly to your home, on demand, for basically nothing, and you use it to rinse a spoon.